Hey everyone, it's Luke here from Astro Awakening. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Thanks for coming along to this new moon update, new moon in Cancer. And the theme for this new moon is healing the inner child wound. So I'm going to talk you through the astrology, the mythology. I'm going to look at some significant dates over the next week or so with regards to the motions of the planets above and how that we can understand the great cosmic clock and wheel in the sky and this sort of grinding of its wheels, refining the expression of consciousness here on the physical plane. So thanks a lot for joining me. If you like my content, make sure you subscribe. If you want to share, that'd be great. Hit the like button if you like it. That really helps me make more of these videos. And also send me a comment. If you've got some feedback or constructive criticism, I'd love to hear it. So yeah, really appreciate your support, and let's get into it. So we're a new moon in Cancer. We're just past the actual conjunction. So it's 12:39 p.m. here, Australian Eastern Standard Time. The new moon conjunction in Cancer was at 11:16 a.m. today, Australian time. So check your local guides for exactly the time for it. Now, it's important to know that when we're in a new moon phase, we actually have no moon. We don't have a moon in the sky. Tonight, when you look into the night sky, you won't see a moon because the moon has no light of its own. It only reflects the light given to it by the sun. But when they're in the same degree of the zodiac sign, the sun can't give any light to the moon. So we don't actually have a moon. When we get about 12 hours or so past, 24 hours past, excuse me, the conjunction, we'll start to see the first light of the sun onto the side of the moon, and we get a nice little tiny crescent moon known as the actual new moon. But what's happening now, right? The moon rules over our subconscious. And, just like our subconscious, that's below our level of consciousness. The sun is ruling our consciousness. Consciousness, another way to say that, is light. When we're conscious of things, we're aware of them. Why? Because we understand them, we've experienced them, or we can see them in some way. Whereas the moon, it's a lot of our subconscious, our automated responses and reactions. And where do these come from? They come from our very early experiences with entry into this world through the birth process and how we were nurtured and sustained and raised as a child, especially our relationship with our mother and our home and mother being the sign of Cancer. So it's those experiences that we had, good, bad, or indifferent, that we had at a very early young age, and also the environment that we grew up in, especially from the ages of 0 to 7, that influence these subconscious sort of patterns of behavior and reactions to the world and the way in which we just respond. It also deals with a lot of the things that we need for comfort and security, what sustains us and keeps us safe. This is a lot of the theme of that Cancer sort of aspect of the zodiac. We're in the second decan of Cancer. So each astrological sign is 30 degrees of the sky, and that 30 degrees is then split up into 3 10-degree subsections known as decans. So we're in the middle section. And that's ruled by Scorpios, and that brings Mars and Pluto into the equation with this new moon. Let's look quickly at Mars. With Mars, we're dealing with desires, actions, motivations. We're dealing with conflict and anger. And we're dealing with what, on some level too, sort of what inspires us to take action in this world. Mars at the moment in Leo is we're motivated by the desire to be seen, to show, to sort of express of the self, right? When Venus is moving into a conjunction, we have the planet of love and relationship combining with the planet of desire and action. And this can arouse a lot of passion, a lot of chemistry, a lot of nice energy to sort of work with regards to personal, intimate relationships in particular, a lot of sex drive, but also creatively, because a lot of this sort of passion can be poured into some sort of creative outlet or passion or hobby that you might have. So it might be a really good time over this month. And passion is the theme too, because if we are dealing with a lot of the inner child wounds that can come up, and I'll talk you through what the theme for those will be, transmuting those desires into some sort of form of positive expression is definitely the theme of the mythology of this deacon of Cancer, which is the mythology behind Hydra and Hercules' battle with Hydra, and Hercules, one of Hercules' 12 labors. Hercules' 12 labors, 12 signs of the zodiac, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. So I'm going to talk through a little bit of the mythology as well of this, because it helps us to understand of how to work with the very things that we're dealing with in this aspect of reality, as we understand the astrology, which is just the clock in the sky that we look to say, well, where are we at consciously? Pluto is the co-ruler of Scorpio, right? So Mars is the traditional ruler and Pluto being the modern ruler. And over the next 24 hours, once the moon leaves this conjunction, she's going to pass into opposition with Pluto. So you have the subconscious coming into a tense point, an opposition to the unconscious. And the theme could be a lot of this here with Cancer. We're wanting to be nurtured, to be looked after, to be sustained, to be nourished, right? What are the things that we need for comfort and security and survival? What are those basic needs that we need for comfort and security? Are we looking outside of ourselves for those? Are we looking to our partner, to our home, to our family? Are we looking to, the job that we do? Are we looking to our government? Are we looking to external source at the moment to provide some sort of nurturing sustenance to survival, basically? We do have what's happening, I see a lot, and I've spoken about this, is this sort of split into these two sort of polarities at the moment with the Saturn and the Uranus energy. Saturn is those wanting external authority to administer some sort of control to keep us safe. In other words, let's lock us down, or, we have to all wear a mask and do the right thing, or let's get vaccinated and we have to all do it. Otherwise it won't work. Come on, everyone else outside of self. My security is dependent on everyone else outside of me taking the vaccine or doing the right thing. And when I'm insecure, it's because I have a perception that they're not doing it, and therefore my own security and safety is jeopardized. And it can make people very emotionally unstable. Especially this new moon, there can be a lot of emotional instability that's going to come up for a lot of people, especially those people that are not doing the self-work, self-transforming, becoming more self-aware, looking at their own triggers and taking responsibility. And the theme is, at the moment, the inner child wound is at the moment that can be coming up is, is where have I not been doing the work, taking responsibility? Where have I looked outside of myself for someone else to do that, someone else to take care of me? And maybe it's because I have this need to be looked after, to be saved, to be nourished or nurtured, or maybe my basic, I haven't yet matured and can't meet my own basic survival needs, right? Those basic needs for survival. Maybe I haven't yet individuated or deconditioned myself from my parentage, from my mother, or from the way I was raised. And I'm still playing out some sort of inner child wound with regards to how I was raised, good, bad, or indifferent. Now, this isn't to lay blame on the past or the parentage or the home environment. This is to understand that it's an influence. And that influence, when we look at it, is whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it's our responsibility as an adult to overcome this, to learn the lessons, to heal the past, to move on and to be able to forgive and let go, because that frees us from it. If we can't, and we're attached to it somehow, and Cancer is a tenacious sign, emotionally attached, we become attached to the story, or we identify with that, and that tenacity is just this grip upon that, right? Of just, I'm not letting that go because I've given that's my meaning. And if I let that go, who am I? But that's going to bind you to the past and mean that you're not going to meet your own, excuse me, I think there is an ant or something in my pants. I think there's an ant in my bed. There's something moving down there that's not part of me. It's like, what is that? Excuse me. The joys of live recording. Let's just hope it doesn't work its way into you know where. Funny. So as the moon, right, tomorrow is going to move over this. Oh, it's a bit hot in here. It's a bit sweaty. It's going to move over this opposition as it comes into its new light. This is definitely going to be the theme for the month ahead. Is a lot of this, repressed stuff, or a lot of the challenges in our life we're going to be faced with is where we haven't stepped up and done the work and taken responsibility. And the more we're unwilling to do that, and we're looking outside of self for this savior, protect me, look after me, control me, and we're not willing to take authority, we're staying back in this wound, the more potential for instability, emotional instability that can come up. Now we have the other side of that polarization, because it's not just to pick on those that are wanting to be saved at the moment and wanting someone else outside of them to save them. It's also those over here that want freedom and liberation. They want to have sovereignty over their values, and be in control of their values around personal health and freedom. And these are more the Uranian type, the rebellious, the freedom fighters. But here's the thing, with great freedom and liberty comes great responsibility. So if you are still over in this side wanting sovereignty, liberation, and freedom, but you're looking to the reason why you haven't got it and you're blaming the government or the lockdown or whatever, you're also still playing that same wound out, right? And that's a recognition of like, right, my freedom and liberation is dependent on no one. It's not dependent on my mum, my family, my roots, my home, my partner. It's not dependent on my job. It's not dependent on the government or anything. It's dependent on me. I am the only one that can free and liberate myself. And we can do that moment to moment in spite of our situation, in spite of the conditions we find ourselves in spite of what's going on in the world. We can free ourselves from these things. So a lot of energy as we move forward, right? There's a 12, I'll go in sort of 24-hour increments. We can see now that the sun is out 18 degrees, Mars is at 18 degrees, Venus catching up. The sun's moved to 19 degrees and it's starting to move into this opposition as well. Opposition with Pluto, which will be triggered a week from the new moon. And that will go forward soon and have a look at that astrologically, because that's very interesting. To have a look at what happens when the sun opposes Pluto, knowing that the moon, when it's just become new in this theme, is also this opposition to Pluto. And Pluto is the darkness, the repressed stuff, the unconscious part of us. It's the soul's desire for significance. It's all of those deep inner primal urges. It's sometimes a lot of the truth that can come up that we don't want to face, because it's challenging and it creates great potential for transformation, but also great potential for crisis when we avoid it or we repress it, the repression. And that's the theme also of the Hydra mythology, is that we don't take desire and repress it, right? And I'll break that down when we have a look towards the end of the mythology. We don't take desire and repress desire, we transmute it, or we channel it into higher forms of expression. And that's the best way to overcome the challenges that repressed energy can present. So it's an acknowledgement. It's looking at the triggers. It's looking at those unmet desires and why that are behind the motivations that drive our actions and behavior. It's having the courage, the confidence. It's having the awareness to self-reflect, to look at the self. Yeah. And maybe the theme is look at the self and where do I still want to think that I'm going to be looked after or protected or saved, or someone else is coming, to care for me, to nourish me, to provide me with my own basic safety needs. If you're looking outside of self for those, you are going to be dependent. This is where codependencies can come in, or attachments, possessions and obsessions with people, with things, with objects, with jobs, with in relationships. We become too intensely attached to them because they're fundamentally, they're our savior. Here's the thing. You save you. Full stop. Jesus not coming back? No, it's up to you. So this astrological moment in time provides a really good opportunity to sort of look at that. Where do I need to be saved? And where am I not taking responsibility in my life? So as we sort of go forward, I've just checked my notes so I'm not missing anything. That's I believe Monday. This is a lovely day for passion, romance, for chemistry, intimacy, or to channel that, again, transmutation, into passion of a hobby or a creative outlet or something you've got to do. Let's just say you're working on a project and it requires a day of like some real brainstorming on creative energy. You just sort of like, and the right mixture of creative energy with action, like putting that creative energy into use, because the moon's going to sort of amplify this conjunction of Venus and Mars. But again, this is a really like passionate energy that can run up. You might find that this polarization I'm talking about, that people sort of, there's this peak point in passion where it sort of outflows in the expression, because we're in that Leo there with that sort of boldness to want to express the self. You might find that on Monday, there's an inflammation of that. You might find that those that are on the side of wanting to be saved get really like egoic in that, like, come on everyone, like this is enough, especially those in places that are suffering some sort of form of restriction or lockdown, looking outside of everyone else and everyone else is to blame and getting fired up. Or the other side, because of what's going on, looking at those that are causing the lockdowns and restrictions and going, come on, we have to fight back. So an inflamed sense of anger and passion that can sort of spill out on a personal level, transmute or channel that energy into either an intimate connection, in other words, the bedroom, let's get it on, or some sort of passion or hobby that you've got. Beautiful day for doing that. Yes, that's the point I was going to make there. The pressure has been taken off, even though there is this sort of square and opposition from these Leo energies towards Saturn and Uranus. The pressure is taken off. It's not as intense as what it has been, because those aspects are sort of waning or separating in energy. So we're moving away from that energy. But this could be a little bit of a trigger day, with the moon passing over that as it's new, and the sun moving towards its opposition. We have on that day Mercury moving out of Gemini, and is it that day? Yeah. On Monday, Mercury finally moving out of Gemini. Mercury was retrograde in Gemini this year, so we had Mercury in Gemini for a couple of months instead of 3 weeks. And that's just been like a mental minefield. There's just been a lot of like thinking and overthinking, reflecting, so much information, but also because there's been this long square to Neptune, it's like, is it real or isn't it? Is it illusion? Is it delusion? Is it fact? Is it fiction? Is it fantasy? What's the reality of the situation? We sort of get a break from that. And now our words can turn to those of care and compassion and kindness. And we can nurture with our words. We can actually, words can be very nurturing. But the most important person to nurture with words is the self-talk. The self-talk. So when we get to Monday in this sort of cycle of the great cosmic clock, be mindful of your self-talk. Does it nourish you or does it discourage you? Does it limit you or does it free you? And, maybe look towards some affirmations or mantras as to how to improve your self-talk. Moving ahead again, we've still got that conjunction there. So Mars and Venus at 19 degrees. So really Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, that energy. Wednesday, they're still at 20 degrees. That's a nice sort of start to the week. But a lot of passion, right? When you mix those two, Venus and Mars coming together in a fire sign, it's very passionate. So potential for a lot of passion to arise. And, passion can be used for positive or negative expression. Um, we have the sun here moving into a trine with Neptune, and Neptune, the planet of intuition, imagination. So there can be this sort of release area like that. I would say around this time, so Thursday, Friday, you maybe just like bathe the soul, soothe the soul, disconnect a little bit, find time in nature or meditation or quiet contemplation, connecting to this higher sort of octave of intuition and imagination, to transcend. Um, yeah, and there's a nice little mystic rectangle that's forming as well, momentarily with the moon in opposition to Neptune, and you can see there's the sextile to the sun and Pluto opposition. So you've got this sort of momentarily mystic rectangle that there where you've got the rectangle shape in the sky. So where we got Thursday around midday on Thursday, take time out of your day, disconnect, do some meditation. Beautiful time for doing that. I won't go on every particular little minor aspect because I do want to talk about the mythology. But I wanted to bring us to Saturday. So here is Saturday, which is a week from now. And why I see this new moon today, a peak day of that being Saturday. So here is Saturday evening, and we've got the sun moving into an opposition, a direct opposition to Pluto. So we now, right, with early moon opposition to Pluto, the sort of things that can come up we're not really conscious of or aware of. It might be motivating our actions or our behavior in a certain way, and we can be falling back into these really ingrained patterns, insecure patterns, or looking outside of self-protection or saving. When we get to this point on Saturday, as the moon moves into its square, so it's the first quarter moon phase as well, and there we get to Saturday evening. We've got the sun in opposition to Pluto with the moon making this T-square. So you can see now there's a square from the moon and Pluto. There's a square from the moon and the sun. And then there's an opposition from the sun and Pluto. And we got this nice, powerful T-square. So that could be a moment where a lot of this theme of inner wound can really come to the surface, especially in the areas of your key relationships. Because as the moon's moving through Libra, sign ruled by Venus. So I see that as a big peak point. I'm not going to go beyond that Saturday. I'll do more videos on the weekly astrology and upload those. But hopefully that's given you a bit of an understanding of the new moon in Cancer. Now let's look at the mythology. And I want to just bring up an image that reflects the mythology of we should put my head on him. Look at that. There's my head on Hercules. Hercules. Yeah, slaying the nine-headed beast, the sea monster, the nine-headed beast. Some mythologies have this as 9 heads, 11 heads. Some have it as thousands of heads. And the story goes that Hercules, with his 12 labors, this is, I think, his second labor, which is his challenges, right? His challenges to overcome, right? Is that he's faced with this 9-headed sea monster beast. And he's like, right, I'm going to slay this. And he chops off one of its head and 2 more appear in its place. And then he chops off another head and 2 more appear. So it just continues to grow and to fester. And remember I said before about repression or cutting off of a desire can have it manifest somewhere else even more dysfunctional or unproductive. And that's the whole thing, is that, if your base desire for security or survival isn't being met, and you are denying that, or you're looking outside of self for someone to take that, you're literally creating more of these complexes within your psychology. So the way in which Hercules overcome this is he had a little friend, Iolaus, and as he would cut off one head, the Iolaus would sear it with a hot iron, right? Hot iron, so it couldn't grow back. And that is representative of discrimination. So to discriminate is to check the desire and to analyze that desire and to discriminate. Is it really what I want? Is this behavior or action that I'm doing, is that actually really what I want? Or is there something else going on here? Is there some other desire that I haven't got met? And when you do that sort of self-analytical or discriminative process, you stop that desire manifesting outside. You've cut off that desire in a way that you've done it in a way to analyze it and to say, yeah, that's actually not what I want. What I really want is this. And you can do that through a process of questioning. Is that helpful and beneficial? What's that going to provide? Why is it that you want that? And these types of self-inquiry questions that can lead to deeper and deeper of understanding is actually, no, that's not what I want. What I want was, I just want to win that house. Why do you want to win that house? Well, then I won't have to worry about, I'll own my own home. Or what's that about? Well, I don't own my own home. Well, why do you need your own home? And again, you can see that this process of just analyzing the question, what is it about that? What is it about that? What is it about that? This is the process of discriminating, right? So this is symbolically what that represents, is we cut off the head, but only to apply it to discrimination. Is that truly what I want? And the other part of it is we don't repress the desire, we transmute the desire. In other words, you don't sort of cut it off completely, you transmute it to a higher plane of expression. You take that desire and you say, right, now I'm going to channel it or sublimate it or channel it into a higher form of expression. And when you can do that, that goes beyond the base needs for survival, the base needs for significance, right? Those base, they say the first, what's the first desire? I think it's for significance. The first desire of life is for significance. If you can transmute those base desires into higher forms of expression for the benefit of others, how can I take this energy and improve the lives of those closest to me or those around me or those that, how does it improve this world? How do I make myself and others better? How do I improve the environment that I live in? And we take those. The final head that he had to slay is, it said that this 9-headed beast has one, what's the word? Immortal head that can't be slain. And that represents the very, very, very base animalistic desire for significance. And we all have that at some area or level. And it's not ever to cut that head off because it's immortal. It cannot be died. But what the mythology says is he sat it under a rock, right? And he sat it under a rock and basically said, right, that's there, but that's where it stays. That's the base sort of animalistic desire for significance, and we understand that and we hold that there, and we don't try to change or channel that or anything. We just hold that. We hold that because we all have that. When we let go of that, we let go of the will to live, the desire for life in general. So it's not to slay that head, it's to hold that in place. So interesting. I recommend that you go and research the mythology of Hydra and Hercules' battle with Hydra and look at it from different perspectives, because this mythology is not only in the biblical times, but it's also back beyond that. There's different versions of it, depending on whether you're coming from the Greek perspective or you're coming from the Egyptian perspective. So it's worth looking into the mythology to get a better understanding of these symbols. Basically, we're dealing with a language of symbolism when we look at astrology. So that's my video. Hope you liked it. Sorry about the ant. If you did like it, make sure that you share it, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like button and comment below, give me feedback. If you'd like to book in for a personal astrology reading, you can head over to my website, lukebelk.com or astrooawakening.com.au. And I do those via Zoom like this. It's a very personal session, and we can dive into all of your dysfunctional patterns and where they come from and how to understand them. And we can use your astrology to look at, how do I transmute them? How do I change? How do I transform myself? Because this moon has a lot of the theme of Pluto involved, especially the first week of this moon, the power for transformation, or the power for great transformation, lies in the act of changing behavior. Excuse me, as I get a bit of indigestion. and I've made this as a post recently, but the great power for transformation that we have lies in the very act of changing our behavior. And that's what we can do. We're changing and transmuting a lot of our base primal behaviors that have arisen from our programming, from how we entered the world, how we were nurtured and sustained in this world, how we were, our home environment in general. And again, it's not to look back on those things and to lay blame, it's to understand the self so that you can change and transform and transmute, and you can break patterns and hereditary patterns of dysfunction and ancestral dysfunction, and that you don't pass them on to your children, and that you can create a better environment through and reality and world here through that very single act. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. Thanks for watching.